Hi everybody, it's C P Beauvoir. Today it's Saturday, November 28th, 2020, and I'm back for another book review called To Be a Queen, Not a Fling by Lestine Bell. Alright, so this is the first of two of her books that I bought, and let me tell you, I actually saw her on the Dear Future Wifey podcast, and where she has an episode where she was talking about abstinence, and I was like, who is this? I mean, she speaks with so much power, strength in her voice. And I gotta tell you a secret, which is not really a secret, but every time she would say, like, daughters of God, women of God, I was getting like butterflies in my tummy. So I was like, I have got to read her books. So I went on her website, and I found one book, but it was like an ebook, and I bought it. But I really like I love ebooks. I like them in like if it's an ebook format in my apps, then yeah, I'll read them. But when it's a PDF in an email, that just doesn't do it for me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to let me see if I can find her books on Amazon, and I did. So I found her paperback books, and I actually bought them again. So, before I get started with this book review, I want to be very upfront and honest and let you guys know that I am not a Christian. Um, I don't have a religion. I was raised as a Christian. I gave up religion a long time ago. I very much believe in God. I believe in many aspects of the Bible, not all of it. I'm just being honest. And I just want to put that out there because this book is written by, she is a Christian, and she is, she believes in the Bible. So my book review, I'm reviewing the book, but I just want to make sure that it's clear that I am not a Christian. And so let's get started. Okay, so I love her book. I gotta say, I love reading this book. It was very easy. As you guys can tell, it's very thin, so you can read it in like under an hour. So I love the book. The book, it talks about, I think it addresses a lot of things. And even from beyond religion, I think it's abstinence is something that that is important that we need to discuss as a society, because and Lestine talks about this, creating soul ties, and I'll get into that a little bit. And it's just, I think the subject is definitely something that we need to address. All right, so let's get started with this book. So in the introduction, Lestine talks about women are gifts and should never be used or abused. This book, the purpose of this book is to awaken women to the truth that you are a queen and not a fling. So basically, Lestine describes what is a queen and what is a fling. So let's start with what is a fling. A fling is a man's plaything, someone he has no intention of making his wife, having a legacy with, nothing like that. It's just you're the meantime girl, you're the temporary distraction for the moment. And Lestine talks about you were created to be a queen, not just someone's plaything that they can have whenever they want. All right, chapter 1, the pain and scars of life. So this is where she shares about some of the heartbreaks that she's been through as a woman, and how she started displaying certain behavior patterns. And she talks about how the reason why we accept less as women, and we come to the position where we are a man's plaything, is because of unhealed wounds, the past hurts and scars. And she talks about it's God's will, that page 17, it's God's will that you heal from everything that hurts you. God not only wants to heal your heart and restore your soul, He wants you to be made completely whole. I love that. And it reminded me of why I bought her book when I read that, because when I heard her speak, even though I'm not religious, I just felt like she had so much power in her voice. And every time she said, daughters of God, like I'm telling you guys, go watch the podcast where she's on, go watch the episode where on the Dear Future Wifey podcast. She's like, daughters of God, women of God. it's just, it did something to me. It's like it went into my heart and I felt so loved and so comforted. It's just, I love that. So I love when she talked about that. Page 19, when a woman is whole, she will not subject herself to a position of a doormat, allowing herself to be taken advantage of and mistreated. She will not allow a man to string her along because he's not serious about her. She will not allow him to abuse her on any level. She will not make allowances for mediocre men for the sake of having a relationship. A whole woman knows her worth. She requires respect, honor, and pursuit. If a man, ladies, isn't pursuing you, then he doesn't want you. If a man truly desires to be with you, he will pursue you. When a man knows your worth, he will pursue you. So I love that because it's all about, you know, understanding where, why, where, and how you got to where you are. So if you are a man's plaything, if you are settling for less than you deserve, less than what you want, you have to understand that, yeah, it's fine to, you know, for a moment to point, it's easy to point the finger at the man, but if you go back to look at the relationships that you've had, you'll notice that there's a behavior pattern, and that is rooted in pains and scars. Chapter 2, counterfeit love. So I love this chapter because this is where Lestine talks about true love versus counterfeit love. Page 27, counterfeit lovers appear to be real, tricking you into believing that their affection is genuine. Counterfeit lovers tell you what you want to hear in order to get what they want. And counterfeit, it really means something that is false, that it's appearing as real. Counterfeit love brings you constant headaches, pain, disappointment, but you choose to remain in it in order to avoid being alone. So basically, those type of relationships, they really, you lose focus of who you are, and while you're hoping and wishing and dreaming that it's something better, you really just end up losing yourself, and you cause yourself more heartbreaks, pain, and sorrow. And she talks about every real woman deserves a real man. Many women have never experienced what true love is. So again, it's about those behavior patterns and what we were displayed in our childhood. And she talks about the difference between, again, counterfeit love, where you have distrusting, betrayal, unforgiveness, judgment, and a lot of negative attributes, versus true love. True love is trusting, committed, consistent in loving, not fickle, wavering, or undependable. And of course, she has other examples about that as well. Chapter 3, the other woman. So this is basically where she talks about if you are a woman who is in I'll call it a situationship, because it's not a relationship, in a situationship with a man who is either married or involved with someone else, whether that's mentally, physically, you know. So anyway, if a man, page 35, if a man is married, separated, engaged, or dating someone else, then he is off limits. You deserve more in a relationship than being a man's part-time lover. You will ultimately get hurt by a man that's not available. All right, so page 36, it's not your purpose in life to be the other women, and you will and never will be. And that's where, and I love that she mentioned that, because I think sometimes some women will say, but God, I prayed to God and God said, this is my husband. Girl, how can he be your husband when he's somebody else's husband? Come on, like, really. I'm telling you, this is actually part of the reason why I gave up religion, because I really realized that most people will just use religion in order to excuse their bad behavior. Anyway, so page 37, God will not violate his word and send you a man who belongs to someone else, period. We should be concerned with uplifting our fellow women instead of causing unnecessary and unwanted headache and pain by dismantling their family structure. So this is where she talks about that if you are the other woman, we have to do better as women. We cannot allow ourselves to be the other women, the side chick is what they call it now. And that, think about what you're doing to another woman as well. Would you want that done to you? No. Being the other woman is a very selfish thing. because the thing that you're doing to someone else, you would not want to be done to you. And of course, she talks about she's not accusing only the women who are involved in this. It's a two-way street. She's holding the men responsible as well. But however, this book is a book that's written by a woman for a woman, so that's why she spent more time talking about the woman's behavior on this. And of course, if a man cheats on his wife to be with you, he's gonna cheat on you. I mean, I don't know when women will get this part, but I guess some people don't. Still. Chapter 4, flinging. Flinging. So basically, I guess that's a term. Ladies, you must wake up to the reality that once you lose the respect of a man, it's extremely difficult to regain it. If it's easy to get, it's not valued. Listen, I will tell you right now, I've actually learned this the hard way. Like, people don't appreciate what comes easy to them. It's just human nature. So you have to set your standards and boundaries at the very beginning of every relationship and maintain them. You know, someone told me long ago that when it comes to relationship, how you start is how you finish. And it is 99% of the time, I would say it's absolutely true. So make sure you're starting in exactly what you want and enforcing your standards and boundaries. So a fling, and she defined this, is a man's plaything until someone he passes through until he finds his queen. So she's basically talking about you don't want to be a fling, you want to be the queen. And here's one last thing that I'll say before we move on to the next chapter. Most women, that she says, page 50, most women know when a man is not serious about them, but will accept the little attention he gives in hopes that more will come in the future. Hello, don't we do that as women? Like, I always say that people know. Like, you may not have known in the first day, the first week, the first month, but there came a time where we know. You always know. Men and women both. You know, we know. So, but we love to convince ourselves that what we truly know or feel in our heart is not true. Oh, it's gonna change. It's gonna get better. He's gonna love me. He's gonna fall in love with me. No, he's not. He's not. And even if he does, his behavior is most likely not going to change. So we have to stop falling in love with men for the potential we think they have. Instead, grow to love the men they are. Chapter 5, how to break unhealthy sexual soul ties. So basically, and this is where she talks about why sex before marriage is very damaging, and you will lose who you are because you will be working overtime trying to please this man in hopes that you can get his heart in return. When you win a man, and I'm reading page 55, when you win a man over sexually, he's telling you that 1, he does not expect more because that's where you have set the bar, and 2, he is only coming back for more because the sex is good, not because he's fallen in love with you. Women, listen. If a man is interested in a relationship, what wins him over is his spiritual and mental connection with a woman. You know, and she talks about how the reason why men can go on and have, and I've heard men say this too, so it's not like she's lying, like it's very true. I've heard men say they can have sex with someone they don't even like. And they can have sex with someone that they like very much and move on to have sex with someone they don't like and back to someone that they actually like. So sex for men and women is very different. Now, personally speaking, I am not telling you guys, well, let's stick to her book because this is a book review. She's explaining this from a religious perspective, but I'm saying for those of us who may not even be religious, we cannot deny the fact that once you involve sex in a romantic relationship, there is, like, especially if you do it early on, you are not seeing things 100% clearly. You're not, because now sex is involved. That's emotions, that's love. So I think even though if you're not religious and you don't believe in just sex, no sex before marriage, even as that, I think she makes a valid point. Like, sex clouds your judgment. And if you're a woman that's going around creating soul ties, this is where you're actually emotionally tied to a man that you're sleeping with, but this man has no connection to you, and you know he can just bounce and go to the next woman because and not be devastated as you are. Now you're home crying your eyes out, wondering how you're gonna pick up the pieces and move forward. Sometimes you don't even want, you're not begging and crying for the man to come back. Well, this man he's fine. He's on the next thing and he is not thinking about you. Like you barely cross his mind. And if you cross his mind, it's for him to come get some more sex from you and out the door he'll be again. So I love that chapter. I think it's very very, very powerful. Um, and she talks about when you sleep with a man, you take on the spirits and the bondage of that person you're sleeping with. I actually believe in that. Like I said, even though I'm not a religious person, I believe that everything is energy, and you have to be very careful of who you allow in your body, because I believe that most of the times when people don't take the time to heal from relationship to relationship, they are carrying other people's energy with them, and that's why recently I got out of a 5-year relationship, and I'm taking my time. Like I've been healing my own self. I don't believe in going from relationship to relationship. You have to learn from what went right, what didn't go so well, what you want to change about yourself, and give your time space to heal. Especially with me, I'm a highly empathetic person. I cannot just go from relationship to relationship. I need time to gather myself together to heal and to move forward, and I did do that, and I'm continuing to do that till this day. So I think this chapter is very, very powerful. um Chapter 6, called to be a queen, and this is where she's inviting women to return to the throne of God, of power, of love, of our purpose. God created women to be queens and desired for us to be respected as such. We are beautiful, powerful, and worthy. We have to believe each of those things about ourselves. You are a queen. You are worth fighting for. And she talks about how women were taught, or some traumatic life experiences cause women to lose their self-esteem. And she talks about how God, no matter how bad you think you are, how wrong you think you are, or how dirty you think you are, or how many mistakes you think you made in your life, it's never too late for you as a woman to be the queen that you are. God will restore you. God knows your heart. God created you. God created you as queen. No matter what you've done or not done in your life, it's never too late for God to heal you and for God to restore your identity. And that's when she talks about we as women have to make God our priority. Sometimes we use our jobs and make our jobs our number one priority. We use a man to make a man our God, putting someone before God is not just a man. It could be your an object, your job, anything. So she really in this chapter is inviting women to return to who they are and to know their worth. In page 75, she writes, a woman's wealth comes from knowing her worth and who she is as a person and as a woman of many gifts and talents. It is this God-given talents that will bring wealth to that individual. Women in excuse me. So she also gives some tips of how to find your confidence back, things that you can do. And she again described what is a queen. A queen is a woman who understands who she is. She is confident, has high self-esteem, and she understands her worth and value. A queen rules and reigns in life and handles her business. She has influence with strong character and integrity. Chapter 7, which is my favorite chapter, where she writes about you are created whole. We have this concept in society that I'm half, this other person is a half, and we're going to come together to complete each other. That's absolutely not true. You by yourself are a whole woman. A man by himself is a whole man. God didn't make half of a soul, half people. We are whole and complete within ourselves and within God. So I love this chapter because she talks about when you are whole, you will be drawn to whole people. When you're whole, you will not allow a man to abuse or use you. And wholeness comes from God. God has the power to deliver you from being scarred by tragic experiences, so they won't continue to have lasting effect on you. She talks about God will deliver you. So if you feel like you're Lestine, you have to return to God. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit thirsty. So she talks about how God loves you, God created you, and there is no one like you in the world as a woman. So God sees you. Your worth comes from God. Do not listen to the world that tells you that you are less of a woman because you pass a certain age, or you don't have a certain body type, or you didn't do XYZ, or you did ABC. She says, no, your worth comes from God. God created you. Only God can. The person, your creator, is the only person, the only being that can tell you your worth. And with God, you are valuable and will always be valuable. And that's why I love this chapter so much. I'm sorry, I have to get some water. So thirsty. So I love this book. Be sure to pick up your copy. Oh, okay. There's something very important I have to say, but I have to go get some water because my throat. One moment. I'm so thirsty. What happened? Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't even talk anymore. It's like this, you know, when that little thing gets stuck in your throat and you just need to drink some water. So there is something important that I want to say about the book. Now, I love the book, and absolutely, um, go out and get a copy. It's there's a lot to learn, and I think all of her points are very valid. And like I said, I love listening to her. I will say that I like listening to her more than I like reading her book. Um, Now this is what I want to tell you. I'm a writer. I'm an avid reader. I had difficulty getting through the book because every other page there was a typo. And for me, that's a pet peeve. I can, I'm sorry, I just have to say that because I have to be honest with you guys. So if you are a person like me that reads all the time, it bothers me. The first thing that bothers me is that the text of the words are not justified. And justification, if you are printing a book, now I don't know when this book was made, and probably was her first book, and you know, as much as I love the book, I just have to say this. I hate books that are not justified, and that means when you get to the end, it's not equal. I hate that. And I can't stand to read books that okay, if you have one typo here and there, that's fine. All mistakes can happen. But as I was reading this book, I'm not exaggerating. I ran into a typo every other page, if not on every page. I think there was very rarely where there was one page that didn't have a typo. And for me, that's a big deal. So, and because of that, I will say that I probably would not read this book again. Not because of the information. The information is very valuable, but it just annoys me, and it's not, the reading experience for me is not the same when I have to go to typo after typo. So I would suggest, Lestine, I love your book. Next time, please get an editor to proofread your book, because people are reading this and your message is powerful. I love it. But it really doesn't make it for enjoyable reading experience if, you know, your readers are running into typo after typo and the book is not properly aligned. So that's all I will say. That's the only thing that I didn't like about it. As much as I love the information, the reading experience wasn't the best for me, because I just that's just one of my things, yeah, about books. Like I cannot every other page reading typos. It really, like, it prevents me from focusing on the information, because I have to go back and read again, and so I don't like it. So I'm currently reading her other book, Illegal Soul Ties. I started reading it last night, so I will do a book review about that as well. But yeah, I love the book. I think every woman should read it, and I hope that beyond the typos and the fact is not justified, I love the information. So that's all I have to say. This is my book review of Called to Be a Queen, Not a Fling by Lestine and Bell. Bye, guys. Have a great Saturday.